Yeah, why not? Screw it. And we are live. What is up, everybody? It is Sunday, the 4th of February. This is the Snappy-Tech podcast, episode number 29. We're getting on up there to nearly a year. This week, however, we have the wonderful Ahmed Khalifa. How are you?
I am very, very well. I'm quite excited about this. Really, really excited about this.
You should be. I think it's an exciting show. I hope it's an exciting show. It'd be like, yeah, it's always difficult. Like when someone like says, they're like, "Oh, it's great to be here." I'm always like, "So do I just use this as an opportunity to pimp the show?" Anyway, introduce yourself to the audience. What do you do? Where are you best found?
Well, I am currently in Edinburgh, Scotland, and that's where I'm based. Hence the weird accent that I have, because I've got like loads of accent from the Irish to the English to the Scottish, because I moved a lot. So I'm living in Edinburgh. I run my own business, and basically I help other people who have WordPress website to grow their online visibility and grow their conversion. It's something that I've been doing for a long time. The past couple of years, I decided to run my own business, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it, and that's kind of linked to Snappy-Tech because I am involved in that kind of the tech industry
Yeah.
as such, and it does make sense. There's some kind of overlap with each other, and there's some news that interests me. So that's why some of the things that we have to discuss today, I think, would be really, really interesting.
You also have your own podcast, correct?
Very true. I have my own podcast, and it's recently rebranded. At the beginning, I mainly focused on interviewing other inspiring entrepreneurs who uses WordPress, and how they built it up and how they grew their business with WordPress and so on. And then I've rebranded my business, and my podcast has also rebranded. It's now called This Week Online Today.
Right.
And I guess kind of similar to yours, George, because I am talking about the news of this week, the online news that happened this week, today, like
Yeah.
now, kind of thing. So hence why there are some overlaps in terms of like some of the news that we're going to talk about today, because it's so much stuff going on, and there's always something to talk about in the tech world and in the online industry. So that's my podcast right now. This week, online today.
Go check that out. But before you do that, listen to this one because we're currently here talking.
I agree.
Right. So, I, I want you to pick the first topic purely because I'm interested as to what you pick. We have a nice mixture of topics this week. If you read the title for this episode, it looks bizarre, for lack of a better term. We have apparently Google killing every app ever and Facebook is dying. However, we do have some lighter topics, and I just want to give a quick shout out to Swadine for realizing that I accidentally left this podcast unlisted. Whoops, aren't I a genius? So thanks to Swadine for pointing that out. I have now made it public. Cheers for that catch. So Ahmed, what do you want to start with?
I mean, you're definitely right about, which topic you talk about, which is the most interesting one. And I think we should go for the bizarrest. Is that a word? Bizarrest? I don't
I
know.
think so.
I'm going to go with
If
it.
not, it should be.
Well, let's go with it. The bizarrest topic of the week. And let's talk about the new flamethrower that is currently hitting the market right now.
The wonderful Elon Musk flamethrower, which actually technically isn't on the market because they're all sold out.
True. Very, very true. And it just shows there's a demand. Apparently, there's a demand for a flamethrower, which is insane. But the story of the week is that Elon Musk has put a flamethrower on sale, and that was after telling people if they sell out of the hats, they're going to sell the flamethrowers online as well. And it was limited quantity, I believe. I don't know how many it was.
It was
but anyway,
20,000, I believe,
was
if
it?
I recall
Right. In
correctly.
that case, they made a good money out of it because they were selling it for $500 and they've sold out. And it's something that I feel like Elon Musk is one of the very few people in the world who can get away with that and sell a flamethrower on under the Boring Company name. Amazing, amazing. And you have to talk about, is this something that he's genuine about? Is it a PR thing? I mean, there's
Well, it's something they're
so many
actually
things
sending
going in my
out.
head.
That's that much of it is true, right? It's actually being sent to people. It's a thing that actually
Exactly.
exists, which is amazing in its own right. Um, but yeah, it's the world's safest flamethrower, according to the website. And my favorite part is the fact that it needed a minor rebranding. So
Hmm.
if you watch, if you follow Elon Musk's Twitter, you'll know that he's a PR master. He does it really well. And I think the Tesla cars show that off best.
Yeah.
The way he'll get people to drop 50,000 on the Tesla Roadster, even though it's not coming out till 2020 and no one's quite sure what it actually is. But if I show this, you can see he mentioned in a tweet saying that calling it a flamethrower meant that a lot of customs, a lot of national customs were declining it. So he rebranded it to the boring company, not a flamethrower. Really, really caught those ones. But the way I found
Oh,
that tweet was I was scrolling through Reddit, and one of the Reddit subreddits is called Mad Lads, which is people doing things that they think are crazy but aren't quite. And I saw that tweet, and I initially thought it was a joke. So I go onto Elon Musk's Twitter just to, like, scroll around because I remember that's a thing that exists, and I'm like, oh my god, that was an actual tweet that he tweeted.
and if you haven't seen it, I mean, I think you're right about Twitter. If you look at it, then he actually is serious about it. If you see his Instagram feed about the flamethrower, and there's a little video of what it looks like, and there's a couple of people actually holding it in their hand and just posing, really, and it looks badass. It looks like a proper flamethrower, and it's the ones that you see in video games. It's just insane, absolutely insane,
It
and
looks like something out of a video game. You're right.
it's crazy. You look at it and you think those things exist. You don't. It's not something that you see every day in the high street. When you're walking around in the middle of London, you don't see that at all. You just don't see that. It's just incredible. And the fact that the other funny side of it is that apparently it's legal because the flames is shorter than 10 feet.
Yes, there's a minimal length that it has to exceed before it's not allowed.
Who would have known that? I mean, I didn't know there's a minimum length to make it safe. I mean, does that mean like under 10 feet that makes it safe? I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's just insane. But the fact that the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms is allowing throwers with flames shorter than 10 feet to be legal. Wow.
I have a question here though, because it's the Bureau of these are three things that you really shouldn't be buying together. Alcohol, tobacco, and firearms are all just lumped together, right? Didn't anyone
That
consider that? Like
that must be a fun department to work in.
that
What
must
goes
I
on
really hope
there
there's
is
one
unbelievable.
shop that sells all three of those things.
Wow, it sounds like something you see in like Grand Theft Auto or something. Like everything in the same place, and it just the three things that could possibly go wrong in anybody's life is alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Yeah.
But there you go, flamethrower is apparently, and I quote, safe to
Right?
use.
That's the thing. We don't want to say it's too safe
No,
because
we don't say
it's a
too. No,
flamethrower, for
God, no.
God's sake.
And there's so many funny comments into it. Even Elon Musk, the way he commented on his Instagram feed about the flamethrower, he said it's great for roasting nuts.
Yes,
Well,
absolutely.
I'm sure it is. Not that I would try it, not that I would recommend it, but anyway,
He did.
it's
I
just
think
for
it's a.
fun.
I think the video's on his Twitter as opposed to on his Instagram. There is a video of him like roasting nuts.
I didn't see that. Wow.
He literally like has them on a pan and he just like aims the flamethrower at them. It's like, see, like
It
so.
must be so much fun for him. Anyway,
Yes,
it's really good, really really good.
he was saying that he might rename it if not a flamethrower didn't work. He had a backup name in mind, which was, and I quote, temperature enhancement device. So
Very
you can make
politically
anything
correct.
sound posh if you try hard enough.
That's like the most politically correct name for a dangerous firearm ever. I mean, what's next? Gun's going to be a long shot device that can stop people. I don't know.
It's a
It's just
remote
crazy.
hole punch. That's what a gun is,
Remote hole punch. That's a good one, actually. That's a
right?
pretty good one. Yeah, that's on the spot as well. That's impressive. That's impressive.
So,
Wow.
oh, that was good.
Whoa.
That was good. I like that one. Remote hole punch.
You should copyright that now.
Yeah, get that written down somewhere. Um,
Exactly. Exactly.
so the reason um, we um, the reason we brought this up is A, because it's so crazy, and B, we were discussing this in the pre-show, and you mentioned the Boring Company not being aware of where it's from, and then it dawned on me that most people aren't, because it's something that he's only ever mentioned on Twitter. Um, so I also want to run through a quick bit of backstory on why the Boring Company exists. Um, so for those of you who aren't aware, the Boring Company exists. Boring is a pun. This is also something that he came up with on the spot. So basically, what happened was Elon Musk was stuck in traffic one day, and he was asking himself, "How do I fix traffic?" Because it's Elon Musk, and he was live tweeting this. I really hope he was using autopilot on his Tesla as he was doing this. And so, he's tweeting it, being like, oh, whatever, traffic is so annoying, blah, blah, blah. And then he goes, wait a second, why don't we just drill tunnels underground? He's like, those will A, never be at capacity, and B, if they ever are, you just, dig a little bit, you dig like another one lower. And then he goes, oh, actually, wait, the limit to that is that you can't really drill holes fast enough. He's like, why don't I just start my own company? I'll make my own company that drills holes. And then he was thinking, what do I call it? And he went, oh, I know. It'll be called the Boring Company, as in boring drilling holes, as opposed to boring uninteresting. And, everyone on Twitter is watching this unfold as it happens. And we're all like, bloody hell, Elon, rein it in. Because I was watching him tweet it, like I was, on Twitter as it was happening. And I'm just like, I think he forgot his meds this morning. And then it became an actual company.
Wow. It's clever. There's a pun in it as well. You could call it. It's a genius name.
It is a very good name.
Yeah.
Not sure why they sell flamethrowers, but it's a good name. And then,
I agree with you on that. Yeah, and I think I've seen the graphic or the video version of the hole that he wants to create for cars to avoid traffic.
Yeah.
I've seen the video of that, and looking at it the first time, you're thinking that looks awesome, because it's like the Eurotunnel for cars.
Yes.
It's just automatic kind of thing. You just underground, you're in a trailer, and the car just goes, and then you arrive at the destination, and that's it. The idea sounds amazing. Putting it into practice, that can't be easy. That just can't be easy at all.
That guy is next level in terms of, I think he might be the person who is most pushing humanity forward right now, on multiple fronts, no less. Like, there's Tesla, which is really pushing electric vehicles. There's SpaceX, which is revolutionizing space travel. They intentionally crashed one of their rockets the other day. I didn't mention it on the show notes because it doesn't make an interesting topic. February 1st, so 3 days ago, they literally crashed one of the rockets into an ocean just to see what would happen, and it survived. And Elon Musk was like, "Oh, now we have to tow it to shore. Like, this sucks. We wanted it to break."
Amazing. And also he built the biggest battery in the world in Australia.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah, we talked about this as it was happening when he challenged the Australian government. Essentially, that's what he did, right? So yeah, we mentioned it at the time, and that guy is just doing some crazy, crazy things. It's ridiculous, for lack of a better word.
I do want to know what's inside his mind. What was he thinking? How does his brain work? If you sit down with him for like half an hour, what happens? Have a conversation with him.
I think if you sit down with him for half an hour, your brain explodes. Like from all the
Probably.
information it absorbs, it just.
But that's the thing, though, because your brain explodes, but he keeps taking in so much information about what he wants to do. Because there is nothing, first of all, nothing quote normal about his company. There's nothing kind of simple or straightforward. He's pushing the boundary in so many levels, and it just makes you wonder, how does he stop moving? Does he get really like antsy about everything? Does he just can't sit still for a second because he's pushing and pushing, and a flamethrower. I mean, what's next? I mean, flamethrower, a rocket ship, electric cars, all this stuff. There's nothing consistent about what he's offering to the world right now at all.
Apart from the fact that they're all consistently crazy.
That is probably the one trait that we can definitely say
it's the one thread between them all. They're all crazy ideas. They're all by one madman.
We can't. I don't think anybody's complaining. I think a lot of people kind of, look up to him and are in awe of him, and they're like just saying, "Wow, look what he's doing," and they're kind of excited about what he's doing next. So there you go. I mean, a flamethrower just came out of nowhere, and I'm trying to work out what has he not done. So
I don't know yet.
There's going to be something.
Yeah, I'm looking. I'm like, what's the one thing that someone else can do first? Because there's not really anything left.
You'd think there's not anything left, but then who would have thought of creating a hole in the ground for cars to avoid traffic?
True,
I
true.
Never thought of it in my life. No way would I be thinking, what'd be good if we can avoid traffic by going down? Because I've seen videos of going over the traffic, like cars can go over the traffic instead of going on the ground.
Right.
And not just like someone just designed it for fun. But Elon Musk, he thinks differently, definitely.
Oh man, that man is a special man, and
special.
And it's crazy because I know that a lot of people, before he became famous with Tesla, a lot of people aren't aware of his background. Right? To a lot of people, he just appeared out of nowhere as this madman with a bunch of money making electric cars. And, the fact that he started off by co-founding PayPal is just crazy to me.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right, though. I think people, it applies to a lot of things, actually. People don't think about how long a certain company person has been around for before he became like in the mainstream media and news. Because you're right, he's been around for decades and decades. It's not something that he's been in the media for the past 5-10 years because of Tesla and everything else. No, he's been around, he's established, he knows what he's talking about. He is a shrewd businessman. So people forget that. Definitely, I agree with you on that.
So, on the subject of shrewd business, I guess that's the best transition I can think of. Facebook. So this is something you covered in your podcast, I believe, earlier this week. You mentioned before this. I saw the headline and my reaction was, "Oh, thank God." I was relieved more so than anything else. Because about a month ago, I actually deleted Facebook from my phone. So there's a long backstory behind it, and in part it's to do with the fact that Facebook admitted they were bad for you, and I'm not sure if you saw this story, but they said scrolling through Facebook is really bad for you because it makes you feel really bad. The way to feel better about yourself is to use Facebook more. That's what you're doing wrong. You're not using it enough. That's the issue. And so we covered that news story, as you do, right?
Of course.
And, part of a follow-up from that was that I ended up deleting Facebook from my phone. And if I use it, it's on my web browser on my computer, because if there's, I have Facebook Messenger, so if someone messages me, it's my primary form of contact, because it's just, something everyone has. So if someone messages me, I'll get it, but I won't get any Facebook notifications through on my phone. And I am using Facebook so much less. I'm primarily on Twitter anyway, and I'm just
What was
so
the?
much more
Can I ask you,
relaxed.
George? What was the catalyst for you to kind of, you know what? I need to remove it from my phone. What happened? Why did you do that?
So it was it was in part that story, right? The Facebook admits they're bad for you story, and then in part it was also that and I was listening to the Bring Your Own Device podcast, which is hosted by Greg Morris and Natty Showcat. I think his surname is Showcat. Ooh, let me show chat. I'm not sure how to. Natty, if you're listening to this, I'm sorry. Um, they're both really great. So actually, I just want to blame Greg because he doesn't say your surname enough. That's why. Um, so yeah, hosted by Greg and Nath, and they were talking about how no app, no service seems content with just doing what they do. Right? Facebook has to do everything now. WhatsApp has to do everything. Twitter, not so much, luckily. But all of these apps are no longer happy just being the app which you use to scroll through social media posts, right? Facebook would, whenever I was out and about, right? Every time I went in somewhere, I'd get a notification from Facebook being like, "Oh, leave a review. Tell us what you think about it. Take some pictures." Turning it off in Google because Google does that as well. Turning that because I have an Android phone, so it's deeply integrated. So turning it off in Google is literally options, turn off notifications, and then I had no way of finding it for Facebook, and that was grating away as it was, and then on top of that it was just you go into, I'm not sure if you've ever tried this, but if you open the Facebook app, if you have an Android phone, you can just pull down that little banner, like the banner of icons, the ribbon bar. If you pull it down, it shows you everything they do, and it is terrifying. There are so many things there. The app is huge. It's 400 megabytes or something, and I'm just like, how is this app half a gigabyte? What are they doing?
That's a lot. That's a lot for any software program app. Doesn't matter what it is. It's a lot.
Yeah, and then there was also and if this is happening, it doesn't actually bother me that much because I wouldn't be surprised more than anything else. But there's also the joke that it listens in on you, and it listens to everything you say and uses that to serve you ads. Let me see how big this app is real quick. So it's currently sitting around. The one consolation is actually at one point I did use Facebook Lite. So they have light versions of their apps that are designed for. Usually they're designed for third world markets, but on Android you can just download the APK and install it. And I just used Facebook Lite for a while because it's 1 megabyte. And I'm like, why isn't the normal Facebook just 1.5 megabytes? Come on, that's all you need.
But I mean, the answer is because, as you said, they're not happy to do just one thing. They want to do everything. They want to take over more apps and buy more companies and add it to their app as well. So as you said, 1 megabyte is for them, it's nah, that's too boring. I just need to do more. I want to buy WhatsApp and Instagram and everyone else, and that's not going to be 1 megabyte anymore, as well. And it's true. I mean, we haven't gotten deep into the story yet, but it's true what you said about how these companies, they track a heck of a lot of information from you. As part of my job, and for many years, I've been doing SEO or search engine optimization. And that's all about getting ranking, getting visibility on Google. And that's something that, that is something that a lot of people want in their website. They want to appear high in Google because everyone uses Google. But because I read a lot about Google, I kind of understand what they do, the algorithm, and the data that they uncover. It's so scary what they know about you that it's unbelievable. And people talk about Facebook. Facebook is definitely one of them. But Google is a huge one as well. I mean, some people say that they're not a search engine company anymore. They are an advertising company because everything is run on data, and then they use that data for advertising. Um, the data that they can get from you is so scary that it scares me. And because I am knee deep in it in terms of like, I know what they're doing. And that
Yeah.
is my job. I want to understand how they operate, how their business is run, and the algorithm. And you're right, it's so scary when it's on your phone, Android or whatever you use, YouTube and everything. But at the same time, we can't deny that they provide amazing products and services to the world. So it's like one of these things where, if you're happy to give away these data, then you get this for free. And what you get for free, YouTube and the search engine and Android platform and stuff like that, if you're getting that for free, then they want something from you, and that
Yes.
is everything about you. So you're right. You're right about the whole Facebook situation. I agree with you.
Yeah, so the crux of this story being, and I'm not surprised, is something that I want to say real quick. When I saw this, I was like, oh, awesome, but I wasn't surprised. I was kind of expecting it, and I think the thing that the reason I was so expecting it was because Facebook announced a version of a app for kids like a couple of weeks ago. That was the thing that just kind of, when I saw that, I was like, oh my god, this is horrible. Yeah, so like a couple of weeks ago, Facebook announced Facebook Messenger Kids, and it's aimed at like 8 to 12-year-olds or something. And I'm just looking at that like, that is terrifying. I cannot imagine like letting my kids be hooked into Facebook at that age. I'd be doing the exact opposite. I'd be like, stay away from Facebook as much as possible. And
Which is it's a bit weird if you think about it. That the fact that they're trying to make people not use it less in terms of don't use it at all, but they are getting a bit of negative news about how much social media is bad for you, and they want to try to solve that problem. They want to help, and then they release Messenger Kids. I just don't understand the logic behind that. Surely the young children from 8 to 12 and even younger, they are the worst people you want to have to be hooked on your app. That's something that I don't agree with, I'm afraid. So,
well, I think I think the idea is, and I think it works to some extent, is hook them young and then get brand loyalty, right? So sure, they're useless to them right now, but 10 years from now they'll be 18 to 22, and that's when you really want them. So that's definitely what we're going for there. But just the way that, it's social media is one of those things that I think is definitely used best in moderation, and is something that, I often think about what I'd do if I had kids and how I'd go about it, because, I'm the kind of guy who'd love to have, I'd love to have kids. I find them fascinating, right? And every time I see, so I'm sure everyone does this, but every time I see someone with kids, I like judge their parenting, like I judge how good they are, right? And even though I'm not a parent, so I have zero, I'm no one to be judging their parenting skills, but I do it nonetheless. I see I've seen parents who are like, oh my, whenever the moment the child makes a noise or is remotely annoying, they just hand them a tablet and turn on YouTube. I'm like, no, that's not what you do in that situation. Or I know people who struggle sleeping at night, right? And the reason is, and I'm a lot politer when I put this idea forward to them as opposed to saying it here on the podcast. The reason is because they're up until 4 a.m. on their phones, staring at their phones, right? And the blue light does the science behind all that. And I'm just so, and that's the crazy thing for me, because I'll ask someone, what are you doing to, how come you can't sleep? And oh, I don't know, I'm just scrolling through on my phone. I'm like, yeah, that's why you can't sleep. Put the phone away. Come on.
You think it's common sense, isn't it? I mean, you're right. The blue screen is one thing, and absorbing that information, making your brain think about what happened there and getting excited about something, a news or whatever you're watching, that can't help you to go to sleep. 100% agree with you on that. And so much so that I'm trying to, as much as my job revolves around, social media and Google and all these things, I still want to, be careful how much social media I absorb because you can easily get stuck in a rabbit hole and then you just keep on going down and you can't get out. So the sleep factor is a big one, and I think that is connected to the news about less people are using it. Facebook, in some indirect way, wants people to be on it less, and this is the funny thing about you picking this news and to talk about because people may not be aware of that there is kind of like a series of news and algorithm changes that they've done over the past few weeks and probably longer.
Yes.
But over the past few weeks, there have been several announcements about the algorithm. Obviously, because Facebook got a lot of negative news and attention about fake news. And obviously, it's bad for Facebook. It's bad for them. It will affect their revenue. Advertisers will not be happy. And if you're not spending money on Facebook, then Facebook will suffer. So they have to control the fake news. And as well as having moderation and feedback, they had to adjust the algorithm. So part of the thing that they worked on, there's a number of changes that they've done. One of them is they want to limit those posts which are the polls. So people say, what do you think of what's your favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah.
Press like for chocolate, press heart for vanilla, press smiley face, and so on. And this is the thing, when you have a post which is getting a lot of engagement, that's going to get visibility, but it's not exactly high quality content. It's not a high quality post. So that's one thing that they want to stop. They want to limit. The other thing they want to focus on is they want to increase the emphasis on trustworthy publishers. That's another thing that they use that word as well. They use the word trustworthy.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. And they want to focus more on local news as well. They want to also limit, this is a big one that has happened over the past month, limit the visibility of businesses and brands on your newsfeed.
Yeah.
Because they want to focus more on your interaction with your friends and family. Which, if you can think about it, that makes sense because we're there to communicate with friends and family. I mean, yeah, there are business people using it for their business, but that's not the primary purpose of Facebook, and that's not what they started with. So they want to focus on that, and they have also said that they want to reduce the number of viral videos on their newsfeed as well.
As in stolen viral videos or like original viral videos?
Even original viral videos, and it's another way for them to make sure that the community is focused together. It's all about the interaction with your community, not about interaction with all these newsfeed, because then if you click like on the viral video, then everyone's newsfeed will be also covered with that. So they want to limit that. So there's been a lot of series of changes in the algorithm that Mark Zuckerberg have announced on Facebook. I think this all has gone toward this news about social media is bad for you. Facebook want to tackle that. Even a former Facebook executive has admitted that they have created a monster. Sean Parker, who invested in Facebook early on, he admitted that it can get quite scary and God knows what going to happen to our children in the future. He said that. He said that. So this all played a part in the news that we have just, reading about, which is less people spend time on Facebook. But Mark Zuckerberg said he wants people to spend less time on Facebook, but it's more valuable. So it's about quality over quantity. So all these little things that I've just been briefly talking about, it's all linked together and all about really your health and well-being, but also your community and your family and friends, that kind of stuff. So it's just a lot of backlog of information over the past few months that has kind of built up to the news today.
I also, I want to ask you a question, but before I do, I just want to say really, really quickly, if you use an Android device, there is a really good app called App Usage. and I highly suggest you download it. And what it does is it runs in the background 24/7, and it just, it logs how much time you spend on each of your apps. And it's interesting to go in afterwards and, it shows you in graph form. And it may be something that you don't realize how much time you A, spend on your phone, and B, spend in particular apps. I highly suggest it. It's called App Usage. It's just on the Google Play Store. I don't think there's an iOS equivalent because I know that Apple is a lot more locked down in that situation. But yeah, the big number from this that I've seen is the 1 million users who have left Facebook or haven't used Facebook in the last month. And then the big one, which is 50 million hours less on Facebook per day, which is crazy to me. The question I want to ask you, though, and I as someone who I think it seems you follow Facebook quite closely, at least. I want to know what your opinion is on the conspiracy theory that Mark Zuckerberg is planning on running for president. That's...
Oh, God.
Right? Because it all adds up, right? He's visiting all 50 states. By the time he gets around to, I think his birthday is literally 4 days before the final day. You can submit your nomination, willingness to be president, and you have to be at least 25 or 35, whatever the age is. His birthday is 4 days before that date, and then on top of that he pledged to visit all 50 states over the next year. Before you start that though, really quickly, Swadine said you can do it in your settings. You can, but that doesn't show it over extended periods of time. That's from your last full... Oh, sorry, on iPhone via settings. Okay, so you can do that as well. But yeah, so Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg, is he the next president of the United States? What do you think? Go.
No, it's not going to happen. Come on. It's not going to happen. I mean, it feels like, I don't know, we're getting political now. It feels like you can be a president without having a political background. What's that about? I don't understand that. I mean, we had this, not announcement, but people were saying Oprah should be the next president of the US, and it's like, who these people? I mean, there are people who've been building up, working their entire life in politics, maybe to be president, maybe not. Who knows? Mark Zuckerberg? Oh, come on. No. I can't see it happening.
That is the thing that really annoys me, and I think you hit the nail on the head there. The fact that, not even just Donald Trump, Oprah Winfrey, or whenever someone says, Dwayne The Rock Johnson for president, no, just, there are people who are supposed to be doing politics for a reason, right? No one has ever turned to, Sean Spicer and be like, oh, he should be an actor. No one has ever done that.
Yeah.
Because, that's the thing they train for. And, if the bar you're setting is so low that you're like, oh no, they just have to be able to talk in front of people really well. That is a really low bar you're setting.
Oh God.
No offense to Dwayne The Rock Johnson and to Oprah Winfrey, but that is a really low bar.
It is. As much as I have respect for Oprah and The Rock and all these people, but being a president is a serious job. It's not something that you just go in there and say, you know what, I want to give it a shot. I fancy it. It looks like fun. No, it's a serious job. So the fact that, well-known people with a lot of money and a lot of probably people behind their back and investors and so on, they could become president. It's just insane to me. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. But if Mark Zuckerberg wants to do it, then I suggest that for him to give up Facebook and just focus on politics for the next few decades, and then we'll talk again.
So I have a question for you. Who would you rather have as president? Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk?
Oh, God. That is a tough one.
Right? Would you rather have the evil
me...
genius or the evil?
That's a really tough one because, I mean, let's not focus on the negative side of it, but if you focus on the positive side, they both have their advantages, isn't it? Because
Yes.
Elon Musk is, he pushes the boundary, he adventurous, he's really, really going for it, and it makes you think, what else is he capable of if he had more power and resources and people behind him to agree with what he wants to do, because he wants to make a difference and he wants to, eco-friendly on all that stuff. Mark Zuckerberg, he focuses, let's just say for now, on community, on people, on
Yes.
and making it easier for people to be together and family values and that kind of stuff. I'm sure Elon Musk is the same thing, but I'm just going by what their businesses are focused on.
Hmm.
So that's a really tough question to answer. Actually, who would you prefer?
I think, you know what my issue is?
Uh-huh.
I'm not sure that Mark Zuckerberg knows what a human actually is. And I think,
Okay.
to be fair, I think part of this is swayed by when I watched The Social Network, right? You know, he's just he's just not very human, for lack of a better phrase. Like, you watch him do stuff, and I'm looking at him like, is he a robot? Like, every time he smiles, I'm like, huh, they've got that looking really human-like now. Like, you know, they're getting better at
Yeah.
it. They're improving him. Like,
Does it is it in your opinion then? Does it make him more human? I can't believe I'm using that word. Does it make him more human? The fact that he's always 50 states. He is, wants to be involved in communities. He visits schools and all these things. Does that make a difference to you?
I think if that is what from what I can tell, that is what he's actually doing, right? Going out, meeting local people, and conversing with them. That does, I think, it. If he does go for wanting to be president, I think that really does, sow those seeds of being able to say, I went to all 50 states. I saw what they were all like. I have ideas on how to, improve them via X, Y, Z, and I promise to do all of that. So it's if it is something that he actually wants to do, it will serve as a good starting point, for sure.
And I think the other thing as well, I mean, whether people are going to be picky about it or not, is that Mark Zuckerberg is an American, whereas Elon Musk, I believe wasn't he born in South Africa?
Yes, I think he's actually South African, if I recall. I'm not even sure if he has.
I think he is South African, and obviously he's an American citizen, which is, fair enough as
I
well.
think that disqualifies him from running as president. On a serious note, I think that actually
Yeah,
disqualifies him.
yeah.
Ignoring our fun little.
So I mean, let's just say if, and that was just an if,
Yeah,
he
if.
is qualified for it, then will people hold that against him? It's like, oh no, 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 he's South African, he's not American, all that kind of stuff as well. Whereas Mark Zuckerberg, he's born and bred, he grew up that way, he worked hard for himself, he built it up from America.
Oh, I've just figured it out. You know what it will be? 2020. Mark Zuckerberg will be president of the United States. Elon Musk, not to be outshone, will be president of Mars. That's what's gonna happen.
Oh, you're president of Mars. And can I ask you what's the job description in the
No
president of
idea.
Mars?
Not a clue. Not the slightest of clues. However, wouldn't be surprised.
Wow.
Would you be actually what I love about this show is that we start off on all these topics and we end up in these conversations, which is always great.
Yeah.
And I think it's nice to see the inner runnings of people and their psyche. If Elon Musk came up to you right now and said, "Hey, we will pay you, the Earth equivalent of £1 million to go to Mars, to be on the first spaceship that goes. I say spaceship. To be on the first rocket that goes to Mars for £1 million, would you do it?
Yes.
You would, because I'm
I
not
would.
sure.
I mean,
I'm not sure I'd be like the first person on Mars. Like,
fair enough. Fair enough. I think I know that, for some people it doesn't excite them, or they are scared, rightly so, because it's a scary thing, or is it dangerous and so on and so forth. But I think for me, I'm like, yeah, I just want to see what it's like, and just, I mean, if I can get back to Earth, then that'd be great, because I've seen what's that movie called, the one with Matt Damon, where he's stuck on
Wait, I know this.
it's begin with I or something like that. Anyway, he got,
Yeah, I
you
know
know,
what you mean.
he
Wait,
gets sent
hang
to
on. There are two though, because there's the Martian, and then there's the other one. So I think you mean the other one, right?
no,
What?
actually, no, you're right. It is Martian. I think it is Martian. I think you're right.
Because Martian's the one where he's stuck on Mars,
That's the one.
and then
That's the
there's
one.
also the other one where he's stuck on a different planet, but is actually the bad guy. And
God,
that one,
he's not having much luck, is he?
no, he's constantly. Interstellar is the one where he tries to sabotage for people who come to save him.
I think I think it's Martian. I'm thinking of. I'm pretty sure because he got stuck there, and then they tried to rescue him, and it
Yeah,
was a bit
that's
difficult.
the Martian.
Right.
Yes.
So I don't want to be in that situation because that looks scary as hell. If
Mm-hmm.
you're stuck in there and you can't get out, and then food running out. But if there's an opportunity, just like Virgin, they're doing that thing as well. So if I had the money to be on the Virgin Galaxy ship to go to space and come back, I would do it. To go to Mars, yeah, it'd be good fun. I think to see what's it about over there.
Yeah, I'm totally okay with being number 3 on Mars, but not
Okay.
number 1, right?
Not number
Don't get
one.
me wrong. Mars is oh yeah, this will be awesome and stuff. But
Yeah.
I feel like when you're on the first spaceship to Mars, I trust Elon Musk, but not that much. like, unless
Well,
he's on it as unless he sat right next to me, I'm gonna pass up number 1 because I
That's
guarantee
what I'm
you
just gonna ask
he
you.
won't be
I
on
was
until
gonna
number
ask you
3.
that. What if he was there with you? Would that make you feel better? But
Okay,
that
if
was
he's
my
there
question.
with me, then yeah, because if Elon Musk's on it, they're not gonna screw it up, right? I like to
Yeah.
hope, because I can just imagine the news the next day, they're and Elon Musk has died as his as his spaceship was blasted towards Mars. There's some guy sat next to him, but Elon Musk, right?
Some George guy.
Some
Yeah.
George fella, some podcaster. No one really knew who he was. We tried to interview his mum, but she'd forgotten who he was already. So
Gone. Finish.
she was like, "Wait, I had a son."
Yeah, he went to Mars. Oh yeah, I remember him. I think there's gonna be, if we're gonna go back to the whole presidency thing, I think it's let's leave it to the experts for now, and because not only that, because then you also want to see what are they going to do in the world as well. What else are they going to do? Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg and all these people, you want them to do what they're famous for, what they're known for, and
Yeah.
keep exciting us, And that's what they're doing right now. I mean, if Facebook didn't exist at all, life would be very different. But then you want to encourage people to kind of, build a really exciting company that we can all use in our day-to-day life and get excited about it. And obviously there's a negative side of it. If you get too obsessed with social media, then that's not a great thing. But at the same time, the excitement is oh, this new project, what's this about? And now people talking about when Snapchat came out and gradually taking more interest, and then people got excited about that, and then Tinder came out and people get excited about that. It's just let the expert be the expert at what they do.
Yeah.
And just focus on that. That's what I think anyway.
On the subject of being an expert at what they do, see these transitions are going great, right? Don't you just
It's
love
going
these segues, right? Google has gotten really good at deleting fake apps.
Okay.
They've become an expert at that because Facebook used to be the platform that you just post your crazy, ridiculous malware on. However, in the last year, so over the last 12 months, they have removed 700,000 bad apps by over 100,000 developers from the Google Play Store, which to me sounds pretty damn amazing. It's a 70% jump over 2016. Over 250,000 of them were just impersonating big titles. So they're pretending to be Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever, as partially as phishing, and then also partially as as malware getting in and getting some viruses up in your phone. Google claims that 99% of the apps with abusive content that violated Play Store's terms of service were removed before they were even installed once. Which is the one that's sort of that's a fact that really gets to me. I guess my question to you, and it's in the show notes, is: are we moving in a direction where Android is slowly but surely becoming more secure from a Play Store point of view, as opposed to just because let's be honest, if you can sideload apps, it's always going to be dangerous.
I mean, there will always be an element of danger, I think, because it's not just about abusive content and malware. Even if there's certain things in there which is unethical, trying to brainwash people or kids or whatever, it might not be abusive, but they might use certain language in a way that it's just brainwashing people. So I think it's going to be impossible for a machine to kind of find those kind of apps. If it was human moderators, that's a different story. But at the same time, from what I know of Google is that they take security very seriously, of cybersecurity anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And just like I talked about before about Facebook, they do not want to have low quality content on the newsfeed. It's going to affect them. It's going to be bad for them, bad news for them, advertising. Same thing with Google. Why would people invest in Google, for buying ads and stuff if it's full of really bad content, if it's full of junk, full of dangerous things there for anybody to find and download on their phone? That's going to affect them. It's going to affect them massively. So it makes total sense for them to get involved and tackle that, because they will get the benefit from it in the long run. Because it's a big topic more and more now. Cybersecurity, it's becoming more and more important for people to be aware of. I'm constantly trying to remind people about using password manager, using two-factor authentication tools and stuff like that, and these are just the minimum, and then you can obviously go on further than that. So if this I think it's the right step in the direction for Google, because let's be honest, it's very annoying to see apps which are impersonating big titles, because there are people who are genuinely trying to download the correct Facebook app, the correct WhatsApp app, and all these things, and that's what they want. The fact that they're getting fooled by that is really annoying, because I think linked to the story, I've heard that people were able to impersonate the titles by putting a space before the name of the app, and that allowed them to get through, which is insane. The fact that they can get put, like, instead of WhatsApp, just put space WhatsApp, and they can be up there at the top of the search result. That's crazy. It's crazy that you can do that. So I think it's the right step in the direction, definitely.
It was interesting because their impersonation was so tactical, because there was the space and then the name, but those were easier to catch, I guess. But then they also had things like Unicode characters that looked similar but weren't quite the same letter, and it's also popular with a lot of email phishing, right? So if you want to steal someone's email address without actually using their email address, you might use RN instead of the letter M, right? And so when you look if you look at it at a glance, it might look the same, but it's actually ever so slightly different. And then on top of that, they had app icons that would be different depending on your location. So in the US, they'd have some random icon because they weren't really targeting US users. But if you were in India or Europe or wherever, then they'd give you that fake Facebook icon or fake WhatsApp icon or whatever, which is crazy to me. It's an interesting one, for lack of a better term.
I think so. I mean, I think The fact that the number of Android users apparently it's rising. I mean, I don't know how what's the number is there, but if it's rising, then they really have to tackle the issue of malware on Google Play. And because I've got an Android phone myself, so I can totally understand where they're coming from with the whole Google Protect scan thing that they have, which apparently it can remove these harmful apps. And it makes sense. Obviously, from my perspective, I think because we are in the industry of technology, we understand what to download, what not to download. It's very hard for us to kind of work out who is downloading these bad apps. How can you get fooled by that? But at the same time, you can't blame these people because, as you said, the R and N, these little things, or children downloading apps on their phone that they're not aware of. You can't blame them. For us,
Yeah.
we're thinking it's common sense. It's easy for us, but we can't just say that for everyone because not everyone is in the tech industry and they look out for these things. And so I think Google has the responsibility to do that. They definitely had to tackle it fast, and hopefully it's not going to creep through again because what you always see is that a company comes up with a way to stop spammers or malware coming in, but these people who created it will find another way to enter. So let's hope that Google stays on top of it because just because they've tackled that doesn't mean that the developers who are creating these harmful apps will not find another way. They're just gonna try to keep finding another way in, and they may get in. You never know. You never know. They might get in again, and Google will have to start again, come up with a new idea, a new tactic to tackle them. This is cybersecurity. It just is always something new happening all the time. It's just the way it is.
What I will say is this was announced at Google I/O, I believe, so back in May of 2017. So this is about 6 months old. But back in May, there were 2 billion monthly active Android devices, which is crazy.
Yeah, that's if you think about it, kind of makes sense because the phones, you got Samsung and LG and all these phones, they use Android. Google has their own version, Pixel. People can buy that. If you remember a few years ago, you can buy the Google phone very, very cheap on a budget. Compared with iPhone, they're always kind of expensive. And not all, well, no other manufacturer can use the iOS platform at all. So that doesn't surprise me actually. The fact that it's a few billion, this is a lot of big numbers.
Yes.
But
They
it just
account for
tells you that
73% of all mobile phones worldwide.
wow.
Because I don't have the exact number right now, but I know that iOS is number one in the US, the UK, and that is like more or less it, like a couple of European countries as well. But if you think about it, right, the majority of China, right, the majority of Russia, like all of these large populous countries, the majority of the population can't afford an iPhone and they, buy really cheap Android phones. I have seen, since being in Georgia for the last couple of months, I have seen about 4 iPhones this entire time. I'm currently helping out a TV station right now, and not a single person here owns an Apple device. So yeah, it's definitely a country by country basis. And you will find that the poorer the country, generally you'll find more Android phones. So yeah, the US and the UK are definitely the 2 biggest from that point of view.
It makes you think whether because you know how Apple they've released the cheaper version of iPhone, and has that made a dent? I haven't heard anything at all.
I know it's made a bit of a dent in India and China, if I recall correctly, but not significantly. It's made a small dent, but the issue is like I was on my way. I was out earlier today, and I like popped my head into a random technology shop just to look at what they had because I'm a tech geek. I like seeing that. They had like Android phones that were being sold at like £30, which
Wow.
you just wouldn't see. Like the cheapest iPhone here probably costs a few hundred, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's
You're
just
right.
so much cheaper than everything. They're just so much cheap, and they can be, right? I was almost tempted to buy one of the like £30 Android phones just to see what it was like just for the hell of it.
Yeah, it's a good point though, because I've never tried it myself. I've tried the iPad and iPhone, whatever, but these low budget iPhone, never tried it at all. And whether it can, can really compete with the budget Android phone or not, that's why they're doing it, isn't it? That's why they want
Yeah,
to kind of, they want to compete with Google. Although haven't, over the past couple of years, now that they've released Pixel. Pixel is there to kind of compete with iPhone,
yes,
apparently.
yeah.
So, and that's a very expensive phone.
What I will, it is a remarkably expensive phone. What I will say is the cheapest Apple iPhone in the UK is currently the iPhone SE, which costs £300. Um, and even that is a lot. Like the average wage here is like £6 a day, if I recall correctly. Like
Right.
that's the median wage in Georgia currently. So a £300 phone is completely out of question.
Yeah.
Um, and then circling back to your point, I think the issue is that a lot of cheap Android phones are getting really good lately. Marquez Brownlee makes a really good and has been making a really good point these last couple of years that good phones are getting cheap and cheap phones are getting good, right?
Hmm.
So £300 for the iPhone SE, putting that price in. I'm just on Carphone Warehouse right now, in case anyone else wants to know numbers. So if I go high to low, £300 gets you the iPhone SE or a refurbished S6 Edge, the Alcatel Idol 4, which is a very good phone. The Moto X4 is a very good phone. The LG Q6 is a reasonable phone. The Huawei Nova. These are all very good phones for the
Yeah.
price. And when the SE first came out, that was considered, not cheap, but it was cheaper because I think it came out at like five or 600, somewhere around that price point.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
Because it's a couple of years old now and it's dropped a couple £100. That is expected to be updated when the iPhone 11 is announced later this year. They are expecting an SE2 or whatever they call it. The SSE maybe, who knows? The SES. Oh, the Apple iPhone SES. That's what we need.
I love how you're claiming that. He's a Snappy-Tech first as well.
Right? Just in case it happens. What I do want...
and Mark Zuckerberg president as well, apparently.
Yeah, so the moment Mark Zuckerberg becomes prez, the moment we get the Apple iPhone SES, and the moment we get, what was it? The remote hole punch.
Yes.
That was all me. That was all me.
Oh God, Elon Musk is nothing compared to you.
Yeah, he is quaking right now. He is. He's listening to this like, oh God, I need to hire him before he comes up with more ideas.
Oh God. And then you have to go live in Mars as well.
Yeah, then I'll have to go live on Mars. Oh, Oh no, I need to stop with these ideas. I don't want to go live on Mars. I like it on Earth. How am I going to play Call of Duty if I'm on Mars?
And how are you going to record podcasts? How are you going to, is there Wi-Fi in Mars? That's a big question.
Yes, that's a good. Yeah, Elon, if you're listening to this, which we all know you are. When you go to Mars, can you install some internet up there? Preferably gigabit. Don't want to be picky, but gigabit would be nice, right?
Yep.
I can accept the low ping, the high ping. That we'll figure a way out around that. Just make that happen, Elon. Just make it happen. On the subject of gaming, though, see, these segues are great.
He's impressive.
It's you know what it is. It's I try to before I go into a podcast, I try to figure out how I'm going to segue them, like loosely, because this conversations can go any which way. But I always have like a backup segue in mind, right? So I'm always like, if it really comes down to it, just use this. Luckily, this episode has been a relatively flowing one, where the moment we say something, but I'm like, oh, that can be a segue. I go, oh, by the way, like that's usually how it goes. Like, oh, gaming, quick, I know I can do this one. This is actually just an excuse for me to be completely honest with you. But Nintendo tweeted out earlier this week announcing Mario Kart is coming to mobile with a title called Mario Kart Tour. This follows Pokemon Go, Animal Crossing, and Super Mario Run as being the next big mobile game. This is actually just 1 week after they said they were shutting down the Miitomo app, which was actually their first mobile game. We know nothing about it. I just wanted to use it as an excuse to talk about my Switch. And also, I guess, Ahmed, the question for you is: Do you do much gaming? I don't know. Do you game a lot?
Oh, I wouldn't say I'm a hardcore gamer, but I do like to switch on the PlayStation 4 now and then. Having said that, in terms of what is my all-time favorite game slash franchise, it would be Final Fantasy,
Right.
and that's kind of like the type of game that I like. You can imagine, think of Final Fantasy, and that is me. And my favorite all-time game ever is Final Fantasy 7, and that was back in PS1. But compared to the other people who PC gamers and all these things, I would not even be able to know where to start with that. Even though that I'm kind of like understanding more and more about esport and watching documentaries about people getting into esport and how much goes into it, I find it very fascinating. So I would call myself a gamer, but I think the hardcore gamers would never call me a gamer because I'm playing the PlayStation 4 and I'm playing I don't know, Final Fantasy and FIFA or these kind of fun novelty games
Yeah.
that the mainstream market would play. So yeah, no, I do love my games. I wish I can. Sometimes you wish you can play all day every day, but I've got a business to run. You just can't do that. So it's nice.
So you mentioned how hardcore gamers wouldn't refer to you as a gamer, but the statistic I'm just pulling the number out of thin air. These are all stats I've read that are true, and I read the exact number at some point, so it'll be in that ballpark. But I think it was around, like, it was more than half. I want to say like 60% of gamers were female. And then on top of that, like 50% of those were actually middle-aged women. Because if you think about it, there'll be like parents that go to pick up their kids from school. And, whilst they're sat in the car waiting for their kids, or, whilst they're standing around waiting, they'll just pull out their phone and start playing Candy Crush, right? Or whatever. Which, again, hardcore gamers don't see that as gaming, but they're playing games on their phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting because there is that idea of hardcore gamer, which actually accounts for a very small percent of who gamers actually are.
Yeah, no, I can definitely appreciate that. I guess it's because I've had people laughing at me when I play the games console, and these are the PC gamers who have all the equipment, they have all the high tech gear, they have special computers just for playing games and this kind of stuff. And I guess that is for serious gamers.
Yeah.
Whereas if you are using an Android phone or iPhone, whatever, to play games, that's just a quick fun thing. And you can also argue those who play the Nintendo Wii. I remember when it first came out, it was like the people who love games, even those who play PlayStation and Xbox and whatever, they were making fun of Nintendo Wii because saying, "Oh, that's just a silly little game that a baby can play, and it's for families and grandchildren and grandparents play together."
Yeah.
It's still a game. It's still a game. I agree with you. It's still that kind of thing. But you're right there because games can fall into so many different categories, from the extreme to the family, fun, friendly, to even babies. They will have their own version of games as well. So,
That's what that's the market Facebook are missing out on. They need Facebook Messenger for babies.
oh God, this is a bad podcast for this. This is a bad podcast. It really is.
I just imagine you not linking us on Twitter later, being like, "Yeah, I was on a podcast. Just forget about it. Just just don't listen." Like,
Oh God, I'm gonna try put it in a good limelight now to
yeah, good luck with
the
that
good things
one.
about games. Um, the thing I found interesting about the whole Mario Kart thing. Obviously, Mario Kart is, again, if we quote, it's not a serious game, but it's such a popular game that a lot of people have played. Anybody can play it. It doesn't matter who you are. And also, most likely, it doesn't matter who you are, whether you are a beginner gamer or an expert gamer, Mario Kart is good fun.
Yeah,
Is good fun when you play with a few of your friends, group of people together. So it makes sense for Nintendo to do something with it. And I guess you're right. We don't know anything about it. Is it going to be like Pokemon Go, where is it going to be an augmented reality thing, or is it going to be online thing where you do it with your friends? Who knows? So it makes sense that they're going to do something with that, and it'll be interesting to see what they do with it. It'll be very interesting, and I think that's what Nintendo has a big advantage: the fact that they can use nostalgia as their marketing tool, because the likes of Mario Kart and Zelda and Mario games and all, everything around that, a big chunk of that is about nostalgia. People remember the 80s and the 90s and all these things, and these are the people who will really, really be excited about it.
right.
The, you know, the people who are maybe born after year 2000 maybe not understand it as much because we kind of grew up with it. So Nintendo has a powerful tool that you can't buy. You can't buy nostalgia, but the fact that Pokemon Go got people excited, Mario Kart I'm sure got people excited. The difficulty now is for them is, can they deliver?
Yeah.
Because you don't want people to be disappointed with the precious memory that they have when they were playing Zelda and Mario Kart back in the days, and then they release something which kind of like completely goes against what people believed in. So they they have to get it right. Just have to get it right.
I think the question for me is, does this they have a fine line to tread because they have to uphold, uh, the tradition of Mario Kart, right? But they also can't afford to make it too good, for lack of a better phrase, because they also don't want to cannibalize the sales on Nintendo Switch, right? So Mario Kart 8 Deluxe came out on Switch. So much fun. I've been using my Switch a bunch since in Georgia. It is probably my favorite purchase I've made in the last 12 months. Um, I was looking at the stats yesterday. I spent 100 hours on FIFA in the last like 2 months or something, 2-3 months.
Wow.
And the reason is, right, I can pick it up and play it anywhere, right? So if I have a 2-hour car ride, I'll play it for 2 hours in the car. And then I'll go home and stick it in the dock and then play on the TV. And then I'll take it out of the dock and, do whatever with it. It's something that I mentioned when it was first announced. But Nintendo have always done this thing that they never talk about the specs of their devices,
Hmm.
right? Of course, they'll be like, oh yeah, it'll game at 720p or whatever. But they've never go, oh yeah, this is how many cores it has and this is the clock speed and all of that. Their ethos has always been family driven, right? It's an experience you'll have with friends and family, and it facilitates your daily life instead of the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4, which are both very much like, look at how many teraflops we make, right? And
Yeah.
the Xbox One X is all like, hey, look, we can game in 4K. And I'm like, yeah, that's great and all, but what about when I leave the room, right? And
What about if you don't have the right TV or the
right,
internet connection or all these things as well? Because people think, oh wow, 4K, that'd be amazing. Well, yeah, if you have the right television. If you don't have the right television, 4K is pretty much useless.
yeah,
So you're right, though. I think there's a clear, not divide. Divide is the wrong word, but there's a clear like segmentation in terms of who Nintendo is for, and the PlayStation, Xbox, who is that for, kind of thing. Uh, it it's obvious that PlayStation and Xbox are competing against each other.
yeah.
It's kind of obvious, and Nintendo, maybe they kind of can get away with it in terms of they are the market leader in terms of being family fun games. On the other hand, though, I don't think it's the most lucrative market for them. They still go there. They still go after it. They still, they're releasing the Switch, and then they had the Wii before. They still want to stay in that market. But I think most people will know that for the PlayStation and Xbox is more lucrative in that area than the games that Nintendo are releasing.
It's interesting because you say that. However, um, it has it's been out for about a year. The Nintendo Switch has already outsold the Wii U's lifetime sales. However, more importantly, in the last quarter, it actually outsold the PlayStation 4. It has, let me find the number real quick. It has just under 15 million sales as of the end of December. And it's been on sale for 10 months. So it is definitely doing, it's not doing badly for sure.
Nope.
And yeah, I've spent a lot of time on it. The top selling game right now being Super Mario Odyssey with over 9 million copies sold. I think that makes it the best console game of this generation so far. Because I think part of that drive for Nintendo is if you're buying the Switch, you are buying it for very different reasons, right? If you're buying a PS4 or Xbox One or a PC, you're very much doing it for a specific reason. Whereas if you've bought the Switch, you're very much in the Nintendo ecosystem. And I'm looking at like the top 5 best-selling games. They're all by Nintendo, right? So number 1 is Super Mario Odyssey. Number 2 is Mario Kart. Number 3 is The Legend of Zelda. Number 4 is Splatoon 2. Like they're all originals.
And this is the thing that, as I said to you before, is that because they have that tradition, the nostalgia, they can. It's stronger than what Sony and Microsoft have.
Yeah.
Everyone remembers the old school Zelda in the SNES. Everyone remember what that looked like, and that was a classic. Everyone remembers the old fashioned Pokemon that people were obsessed about. That's something that, apart from a few a few games like Call of Duty or anything like that, Call of Duty doesn't capture emotions like Zelda does and like Pokemon does. So Nintendo has definitely got that advantage, and that's a big number. It is a big number, and I guess the big question is that you're telling me these numbers. Now I'm wondering if if Sony, Microsoft, and Nintendo have released a game console at the same time,
Yeah.
who would lead and win that race? Because obviously PS4 has been around for a while. It's kind of obviously declining in numbers, whereas the Switch is quite new. So now it makes me wonder, I mean, what would happen if these 3 consoles were all released during the Christmas time? And, what would people prefer? It's just something that we may never find out.
Yeah, it would be interesting, for lack of a better word, that's for sure. The thing that I find most interesting, though, is that the Nintendo Switch still has a lot of big games to come, right? There isn't a main Pokemon game yet. It doesn't have Super Smash Brothers. It doesn't have Metroid comes out soon. Is coming soon. It comes out later this year. Donkey Kong, Kirby, Yoshi, Star Fox. All of these big names
Yeah.
haven't come out yet, and even though those aren't out yet, it's still doing really well. And then on top of that, if you look at the quality of games as well, I'm looking at all of the games out on Nintendo Switch right now, listed by score on OpenCritic. OpenCritic aggregates a bunch of different sources. It's basically the Rotten Tomatoes for games. This isn't a perfect measure, but it gives you the mixture of different publications as well as users. And this is out of 100, right? Super Mario Odyssey 97, The Legend of Zelda 96, Mario Kart 8 92, right? All of the original games have ultra high scores, and it's actually quite hard to find a low scoring game. Like Super Meat Boy,
Wow.
which to me is a really fun game, is 84, and is actually like halfway down this list. Like, don't get me wrong, there are bad games on Switch, but there are a lot of really good ones. They have 6 which are rated 90 or above out of 100.
Wow. It's competitive. It is a competitive industry.
Absolutely.
And it's almost cutthroat, because I don't know if you've seen any documentaries. I wish I remember the name of it, but there was a documentary on. I think it was on BBC iPlayer. I think it was actually. It was about the creators of Grand Theft Auto.
hmm
Um, because the reason it interests me is because the fact that is it Rockstar? That's it.
Yep,
That's the name.
Rockstar.
Um, so Rockstar, they've got an office in Edinburgh,
Right.
and people don't know that, and it's a big thing for local people here. It's like if you want to be in the gaming industry, you want to get a job at Rockstar,
Yeah.
and it's amazing that there's an office in Edinburgh as well as in the US as well. So there was
Yeah.
a document.
Sorry,
Documentary.
really quickly to just interject. For people who aren't aware,
Oh,
Rockstar has like multiple. So Rockstar North is the one that's based in Edinburgh, and then there's I think Rockstar West, which is in. Is it?
I'm not sure.
I
I'm
think
not sure
that's the
actually.
US based one. There's basically a bunch of different Rockstars. It's not West. So it's a Rockstar Games that's based in the UK. In the US, and then Rockstar North is in. I think so. Yeah, that sounds about right. Rockstar Games is US. Rockstar North is Edinburgh.
And obviously, they're a big company in terms of because of Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption as well is another big name, and that's coming out a new one soon. There was a documentary about the whole behind the scene of releasing Grand Theft Auto. I can't remember which Grand Theft Auto we're talking about. It may have been San Andreas, but I might be wrong. And it was looking at behind the scene of what they had to do to live up to the expectation, to maintain the standard, the pressure that the board, the executive, the developers, the gamers who designed this game, it's like insane amount of pressure that they were under just to maintain that kind of standard, the money that is involved, and the market is cutthroat. It is incredibly cutthroat. You don't think about it when you're playing the game for fun. You don't think about the business side of it, what goes on behind the scene. But this documentary, the lead person, the character in it, I believe was either the founder of Rockstar or the CEO. One of them is played by Elijah Wood,
Right.
and so he was there playing the storyline. It is such a powerful documentary slash film that it made me realize that this industry is so brutal that it's not even funny. And if you want to be in the industry like that, don't expect it to be all fun and game, that kind of thing. It's actually a very scary, very high pressure job, especially if you're working for a game that produces Grand Theft Auto, which is obviously a huge franchise. And people don't think about that, and I think that's what people don't appreciate. That the quality, the standard that they have to maintain when it comes to releasing games. It used to be made fun of. People think like, oh, it's for geeks. It's not something you should take seriously. But whether you like it or not, the way the games are made right now is art. You can't deny that it's not art because the way they make it, there's so much attention to detail that goes on behind the scene that I feel like it's not appreciated sometimes. And it opened my eyes, really, really opened my eyes. I think it's something that people should appreciate a bit more, actually, the people who make the games.
So I've just taken a look. The only Rockstar based documentary I could find is called, what's it called? Wait for it. The Game Changers. It's a TV movie made by BBC. Does that sound about right?
Sounds
BBC
about right.
Two.
That might have been it. That I think I'm pretty
Um,
sure it's Elijah Wood. It's either Elijah Wood or Daniel Radcliffe.
it was
Definitely one
Daniel
of the two.
Radcliffe. Yeah.
Then there we go. Right.
Daniel Radcliffe, The Game Changers. So Rockstar actually sued the BBC over it,
Yes. Yes.
which means you should definitely give it a watch.
It was it's quite a controversial. I think if for Rockstar, I can see why they would sue them because it's quite a controversial documentary, really hard hitting stories, and it's making Rockstar look like a really bad employer that they don't treat their staff very well.
Right, I'm gonna have to give that a
So
watch.
so I think maybe you can. It's like we talked about earlier. You were saying about the social network,
Hmm.
and you can make your own assumption on how much of it is true, but it just opens your eyes a little bit more. So this is the same idea as well. Highly recommend it. Just to see it, just to make you think about the game industry.
Yep. So it's called The Game Changers. I'm not sure if it's on Netflix or anything. I'm sure if you look it up, you'd find it. It's actually an Oscar-winning. Oh, it's by an Oscar-winning director.
Right. Okay. I didn't know that.
So yeah, it's worth watching. Got Daniel Radcliffe in it. I'm sure it'll be all right. A 6.3 out of 10 on IMDb. However, apparently 87% of Google users liked it. So
Right.
I'll give it a watch. We'll come back next week with my opinion on The Game Changers. On the subject of opinions, see, I'm great at this. What's your opinion on the deepfakes situation? I think this will be our closing topic. I think leaving this till last is probably the right way to do this. What is your opinion on deepfakes? Now, out to the world, just in case you're not aware of what this is, it's the thing that has been taking the news by storm this week. I was considering leaving it out of this week's podcast because I didn't want to give it more promotion, if you get what I mean. But even then, I was like, this is such a big deal that I can't not talk about it.
Yeah.
So if you're not aware, people have used machine learning, which sounds so innocent, right?
Not.
Machine learning has been used to put people's faces onto other people's bodies really, really well. Now, I have an example of this, which is which is definitely, safe for work. Hang on. Let me pull it up real quick. I forgot to put it in the show notes. So let me... let me just grab the link. I believe this is it. Let me just double check. Yes, this is a compilation, but I'll just have it running in the background so viewers can see it. Let me send it to you on Skype. That's the YouTube video, and then here we are. So basically, what they've done with deepfakes is they have literally just replaced people's faces with, and I think if you go to 40 seconds in, that's the best one. They've just used Nick Cage's face on other people's bodies. Oh wait, hang on, I hit the wrong button. That's what I wanted. and it's just so it's so good and so bizarre. Like that's
And
what
so
makes it
scary
so.
as well.
Yeah, that's what makes it so scary, right? Like the fact that these are very extreme, so they look bad because of that. But they don't look bad; they look off because of that. But if you find the right kind of person to do it with, they look scarily accurate. It's mildly terrifying.
Yeah, I think terrifying is definitely the word. I think you're right that okay, machine learning is going to be used for many, many things. It's going to get more popular. And now we're in this situation where actually we're slowly starting to see the dark side of machine learning. And I'm sure there has been other dark news about machine learning in the past, but as you said, this is really hitting the news right now, and people are talking about it because what it can do is incredibly scary for innocent people. You know,
Yes.
for anybody who is just minding their own business, not even involved anything scary, shady, rude, whatever you want to look at it, and the fact that they can be, taken advantage of in this way. I mean, what's next? What's next? Because the first thing I was thinking about was the whole story about revenge porn.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it was in the UK actually, for the first time ever recently, just maybe the past few weeks or a month, was that they have um, punished someone for carrying out the action of revenge porn against his ex-girlfriend and got in trouble for it. Went to the high court and yeah, he went to prison for that. And obviously it's a good thing because we shouldn't be doing that. But now this is happening. That I'm thinking, what does that mean then? Does that mean it's going to make revenge porn look fake? Is it going to be dangerous for women out there? That's the one side of it, and then obviously there's a picture of the politics side of it, where you look at
Yep.
Donald Trump's face on Hillary Clinton, and how is that going to be abused? Is that going to increase the level of fake news now? Because
Yeah.
that's just getting boring, fake news.
And it's
So
the thing that makes it so hard is that there's no way to tell whether it's real or fake, right?
yeah,
Like if it's a celebrity, right? It's expected, right? I think when we saw that Nick Cage video, right? You look at it and you go, oh right, yeah, that's Nicolas Cage. He wasn't in that movie. You find it as a joke. But when
yeah.
it's someone doing it to you specifically, and you're just some random person off the street, that is terrifying potential consequences.
I think it is terrifying because unfortunately, people will believe it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the situation that people are getting angry about with fake news. Is that there are people out there who believe it, and because we live in an era where technology is making things more and more realistic, it can fool anybody. And for those of us who are maybe a bit more wary about it, you question it first before you say, yes, that is real. But not everyone will question it. Everyone just say, oh, that happened, that existed. I think one big one I remember just off the top of my head was one of one of the severe flooding that happened in the US. I
Right.
can't remember which one it was. And I remembered there was a photograph inside a shopping mall. It was flooded, and there were sharks swimming in there. And at first you think, whoa, did that actually happen? But then you have to stop and second guess it and look at it and thinking, that's fake. That's got to be fake
Yeah.
because there's no way, a flood will cause a shark to swim in a shopping mall. And the problem is, a lot of people believe that. And that was just a simple act of Photoshop, really, putting that in. But now we're looking at videos, which is more, it will have a more of an impact on people's impression than pictures. So, where it's going now? What direction is this going to go towards? This is the worry.
And the craziest thing is, it started off as one guy going, "Hey, look what you can do," and then it was taken to the extreme when someone actually published a tool letting you do it yourself. And what the reason they're doing it with celebrities is because it's so much easier with celebrities, right? Because there's pictures of them everywhere, so you just give it
Yeah.
a massive data set. If someone wanted to do it for me, for example, it'd be quite easy actually, because all of these YouTube videos. Oh no, I need to. I've just realised that's horrible. I need to cover my face
Oh,
from now on.
oh, darn.
I don't want to get
Oh,
deep
God.
faked.
But you're right though, is the fact that celebrity is so easy because all you need is people who are on the media all the time. All you need is lots of selfies,
Just
and
go through
people do that all the
Yeah,
time.
just go through someone's Facebook account or Instagram account, right?
Instagram, yeah, exactly, exactly, and that's it. That's all you need to do, and you have deepfake at your disposal.
That is
Imagine
terrifying.
him and
Oh, it is, yeah, mildly terrifying. And then put together with Adobe Voco, which they haven't, surprisingly, they mentioned it once and never mentioned it ever again. Who'd have guessed? Um, Adobe Voco being the tool that lets you input in. I think they said it takes like 10 hours or 5 hours of something of someone talking, and then it gets to a point where like you can like type in a sentence and you'll hear it like in their voice,
In the voice,
right?
yeah,
So you put
yeah.
Voco and this together, and all of a sudden I can make anyone say anything and look like they're saying it. And what do you do then? What then we're all screwed.
We're all screwed. I mean, there's a reason why Adobe Vocal is nicknamed as Photoshop for voice.
That is the most terrifying name I've ever heard for anything.
I've heard of that nickname before because that is what it can do to you. You can Photoshop a voice and make it seem like it sounds like someone else, and that's what Photoshop does. It can make things look like something else, and it's very scary. So yeah, you're right. So Adobe Vocal combined with deepfake. So where do we draw the line on what is fake, what is not fake? Unless you have a very keen eye, really strong, like maybe you need experience in the industry actually in terms of like editing, audio editing or video editing, you can tell it's fake. But come on, the majority of the world is not an expert in video and audio.
I think you need some form of digital footprint. I think that's realistically what you'd need, right? Some of knowing that it was at least passed through one of these services, right? I think that's some verifiable way of saying, oh yeah, this definitely went via Adobe Voco, which I just want to point out, I was completely wrong about. It doesn't take 5 hours of audio. It takes 20 minutes, which is even more concerning. I can record one phone conversation and then make them say anything I want in the future. That is terrifying.
Oh God. The future, I mean, technology can be wonderful, but technology can be dangerous. It can be dangerous. There's no denying it at all. And deepfake is just one of many, many things that could go wrong. And, we talked earlier about Facebook Messenger for kids and, things like that. What is the intention there? That's number one. What is the intention? But number two, we know that it can be abused in a certain way.
Yeah.
It will be taken advantage of in a certain way, whether we like it or not. And that's the worrying part. Is this is another level of just kind of maybe going too deep into someone else's life and using their identity like that. We're not talking, using sending hate mail or messages on comments, stuff like that. We're talking about we're taking your face and we can do whatever we like with it. Scary stuff. Scary stuff.
Yes, absolutely. And I don't want to end it on that, but I guess.
No.
And the worst part is the only topic we can segue to, because we covered everything else, is actually not that good either. So I think we're gonna end it with a positive in trying to. Oh, actually, I have a question for you because I keep looking at your. What headphones are you wearing right now?
What headphones? So I've got a.
They're extreme explosives, aren't they?
I think it's a JVC. I think it is. If I'm
Called it. I saw the headphones, and I was immediately like, oh yeah, those are JVC Extreme Explosives.
yeah, I think that's it.
they're,
Yeah,
they're
yeah.
my
They're
they're
so,
my
they're so
favorite
good.
wired headphones, like in-ear headphones that are like £15. Um,
Yeah,
I
they're
use
really
like
really
a
cool.
pair of. See, this is positive. I use a pair of Jaybird X3s currently, because I'm moving over to Bluetooth headphones. But I always
Yeah.
have at least one pair of Extreme Explosives on me at any given time. I've actually
Well, even
bought like 8 pairs of those.
I think
Oh,
yeah, I bought a couple,
I have those
but
headphones as well. We did a review
yeah,
on those like 8 months ago.
it's the Cohen or Cowan or
Yeah,
however.
Cohen something or other. Yep. Are those
Yeah,
the audio? Are those the noise cancelling version or the non-noise cancelling version?
noise cancelling version.
Oh yeah, I have the
And
cheaper ones.
because you're talking about wireless Bluetooth one, and
Mm-hmm.
this one is incredible
Yes.
for because I paid £60 for this. And if you think about the general noise cancelling headphones, they cost a good £300. And this one works fantastic. Really, really works very, very well. And I have no complaints. So in terms of wired headphones, these are great, and these are decent price. And then the Cohen one as well. So yeah, I recommend it.
Yeah, so they're the E7s are the non-noise cancelling version, and then the E7 NC, I assume,
Yeah,
is the noise cancelling version. That video
yeah.
actually has over 7,500 views. So thanks to everyone who watched the Cowan video. And then the Extreme Explosives, those, the reason I've bought so many, because every time I mention that I've bought a bunch of them, everyone's like, oh, so why'd you keep buying them? They're clearly really bad. And that's not what it is. The reason I keep buying them is because I keep giving them away. they're so cheap that to me they're just like, whatever, just take them, right? Because they're like 15-ish pounds, I want to say. And so I always buy them in twos, because what will happen is inevitably someone will be like, oh, these headphones are really good. And I'll just go, have them. I have another pair at home. So I've given away like a solid 5, 6 pairs of these. I even did a giveaway on the YouTube channel. This was back in
I guess
August of
that
2016.
the only wish I have is that it has a microphone, so I can use it with my phone.
That isn't the only wish you had, because there's a microphone version. Like there's like for like a couple of pounds more, you can get the one with the microphone. But that has
I
a
didn't know
thinner
that.
cable though. Like it's not as the cable isn't as good from what I hear.
Right.
Because
Okay.
the thing for me is that really thick red cable, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
got some strength to it. But yeah, those are
Yeah.
definitely my favorite in-ear, like £15 headphones that I've bought so many times that like I've had some banter with JVC on Twitter before, where I've been like, I think I'm single-handedly keeping JVC afloat, and I've like showed them a list of how many times I've bought those headphones.
Oh, you should buy them.
I might,
Uh,
I might need a new pair.
yeah.
Who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows?
Exactly. You never have to buy one again.
Yeah. So, Ahmed, again, we talked about this at the start. Let's talk about it again. Where do people find you? What are you? Is there anything you're currently working on? Like anything in the works?
Currently in the work is well, the reason I've gone through the whole rebranding thing is because I wanted to focus more on personal brand. And it just, that's who I am. I am the face of a company. It's under my name as well. And, my latest project is that I am currently really investing heavily on YouTube, because I've been kind of like helping other people with their YouTube channels and getting their visibility grown and stuff like that. But I've decided to take the plunge and get in there. So YouTube and also my podcast, and because I've rebranded that, I
Yeah.
want to get into it more actually. And content is something that I take very seriously. I really want to push heavily in that, and I want to make it not just you know interesting and exciting, but also useful. It's all about making content that is useful for other people to consume, and that's the challenge part. That's the challenging part, is that you're creating content, video, audio, blog posts, whatever it is. It doesn't matter what format it is. That's kind of my main project right now. So basically, everything is on my website, which is iamahmedkhalifa.com, and my social media handle is all at I am Ahmed Khalifa. It's on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, all of it. So I'm around. If anybody has any questions about growing your online visibility, that's kind of what I do. I just love doing that, and I love my job.
Awesome. So do make sure to check him out. There is a link in the description of this YouTube video if you're watching it on YouTube. It's in the show notes if you're watching with show notes. And it's also in the, if you're watching with show notes, if you're listening to the podcast. What am I on about? And then it's also in the show notes, snpy.tech, because I'm all about those vanity URLs, slash SN29. So make sure to go give that a look. If you want to follow us, there's of course snpy.tech/Facebook/Twitter/YouTube/podcast, the audio version of this podcast/live for the next live event, whatever it is. It will either be the next episode of this or the Snappy Talk episode if you look at it midweek. And then what else? We have so many like of these short URLs, but I'm like, I'm running out of space to write these all down. But yeah, do make sure to go check them out. Do go to snpy.tech/Snapchat, however, because that is where I do my daily vlogging. Basically, I've had something on my. I've mentioned this to almost every guest that comes on, and everyone gives me this look of like, I think you're a little bit crazy. But I've had like at least one thing on my Snapchat for the last like year, so I've been basically daily vlogging for the last year. Which is it's fun. It's like it. I found that it makes me want to do more because it makes me want to do something that is worthy of, putting it on Snapchat. And then the fact that it's gone in 24 hours also means that if I have a lazy day, I'll like put up a couple of pictures of me playing FIFA. I'm like, okay, that's cool. Like I get away with that as well. So it works really well. I have no guilt for just posting a couple of pictures. But yeah, do absolutely make sure to check out everything that is Ahmed Khalifa, which is iamahmedkhalifa.co.uk, right?
.com.
.com. You need both. Just in case. You need to swipe them both up.
I've got ahmedkhalifa.co.uk, which redirects to .com. So but you're right. I need to. I don't have a huge portfolio of domains like you do. So you're kind of making me look bad.
It's one domain. The crazy thing is, like when we first announced the short URL, right, SNPY, because that's an abbreviation of Snappy, and then .tech. When I first mentioned it, people were like, "That sounds like some dodgy redirect thing, right?" Like. And like, yeah, I know, but just roll with it. Just roll with it. Yeah, every time it's actually as someone, and I'm gonna ask you this, conscious of the fact we're about to go up to 2 hours, so preferably quite quickly. What is your advice for people growing their personal brand? Because for me, there are two things that really annoy me. First of all, whenever their email address is whatever@gmail.com. I see that and instantly go, not very serious. And then secondly is like whenever they use like Twitter's URL shortener or something like that, right? Because the reason we have snpy.tech is because it's ours, right? We can do whatever we want with it. What are your what's a couple of your pieces of advice you give people?
Okay, well, I think you can look at it in two different ways. Obviously, I was talking about content being very, very important because that is the best way to show people that you know your stuff. You have that credibility about that topic. You have the industry experience and knowledge about that topic. And the only way people will know what you are the go-to guy for is the way how you use your content. Again, video, audio, text format, image format. It could be anything. So you have to do that. And it's not just about creating it. First of all, it's about the quality of it is important, but also consistency, because it's not just about, publish a blog post and then you haven't done anything for a few months. Just like what you said yourself about you have been using Snapchat for like a daily vlogging kind of thing. That is a form of content, and that is a form of consistent content too, because you are showing up to your audience. And connected to that, the important thing about personal branding is your authenticity and being yourself and being raw. Because You can't pretend to be someone else. At the end of the day, only you can be you. And don't be like everyone else because they're taken. So you have to kind of show yourself who you are as a person, being authentic about it. And at the end of the day, you attract the right kind of people because people are worried about, oh no, I want to be like this person so that I can attract this kind of people. Well, then you're kind of fooling yourself. At the end of the day, your vibe will attract your tribe. And that is something that's really, really important when it comes to personal branding.
Wonderful. So, if you want to find out more, do go to iamahmedkhalifa.com. As you were talking, I was like scrolling through the website and showing it to anyone who's watching this in video form. So, do definitely check it out. It makes for good reading, if nothing else. And the podcast is also a good listen. So, go do that. Actually, one question I do have real quick is looking at the main image, right? It's you with I assume that's you working away, right?
That is me. That is me working
What
hard.
what? So my question is, why is your phone on your mic stand?
Because I have been using my phone to do some kind of videos,
Right,
whether it's like a Instagram story or Instagram live, that kind of thing. And I've been using it to appear there. And it's also another way for me to, if I want to do simultaneous live videos. So
right.
my webcam would be for Facebook Live and my phone would be for Instagram Live. So there's many different benefits of using that, and it's really useful. Really, really useful to have it. Just clip it on, press record, on off you go, kind of thing.
Awesome. Thank you so much for coming. Make sure to go to all of the links, all in the description or the show notes or however you're catching this. So do that. We are live every Sunday from 6 p.m. GMT. I am back in the UK in 3 weeks, which means we'll have a late show. It'll be me, Paul, and Emily. The original trio, I guess. We haven't had those two on in a while. So if you're not around for the next couple of weeks, do be around for that episode. It's going to be so much fun. It'll be a bit later because I'm, flying into the UK. But it should be good. We will see you then. If not, we'll see you next week on the Snappy-Tech podcast. Bye.